Hello and welcome to the wrap. It is Thursday, July 27th, 2023. I'm Nathan Guerra. Anna Russell sat next to me virtually. She was just in the United States. Some reason she went all the way back across the world to New Zealand to do this podcast. and this is a show rounding up all things Zwift. From the last week, racing, events, tech, fashion, etc. You name it. We're live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. This is also a podcast that you can download after the show. Head on over to zwiftcommunitylive.com to find it there, or anywhere that you download your podcast. It should be there in order to get it. Coming up on the podcast this week, the usual what have we been up to, as well as the Tour de France. The Femmes is going on, and we have been following along pretty closely, and the racing has been heating up. We're going to be talking about that, definitely. Anna has the new Zwift plays, and it'll be her first interaction with them to have her opinion on whether or not they're cool. And then there's honestly a ton of racing going on in the middle of summer. I just saw a post made by Sisu with some crazy numbers on it, as well as Chasing Tour, the women's series. There's a new Chasing Rainbow series coming up. And then the Ladder League, what's that all about? There's also a new competitor, or maybe not. I wouldn't really call it a competitor in this space, because it definitely looks a lot like playing a video game more than maybe riding a bike. But what is Vingo? Latest update in IndiVelo looks kind of crazy as well. We'll talk a little bit about that. And as well as what is your optimal streaming series. It's over by Zwift Insider. They're talking microphones. So a lot to cover here on the podcast. Of course, the jersey pick of the week is the new Canyon SRAM jersey, and Anna thinks it's hot. And there's also the garage pick of the week, Canyon SRAM bike paint job that was seen over at the Tour de France Femmes. So we're going to be looking at that as well. As always, let us know in the chat what you think about all these things, especially the rating you're giving those picks on a scale of 1 to 10. Welcome back home. Good to see you made it back, and you're in front of a really hot microphone. Actually, I turned your noise gate. So when you were over in Colorado, Anna, you and then also in Australia. In Australia, it was in Australia. Sorry, when you were in Australia, the background noise with the children and everything was so high that I turned your noise gate way up. I mean, it was like more than halfway through the meter. But then now that you got back, I was like, oh, I'll turn it almost off. And then I was like, whoa, her mic is strong. And so now we got to get that right. Here we go.
Thanks. Yeah, well, actually, before we get to it, but the this mic is rated number 1 on that Zwift Insider article. But anyway, yes, man.
Anna's being competitive about her setup. She's totally,
I am. I do not feel like I've been at home in a long time. So yeah, I was in Aussie and I had like a horrific setup, and I've got to do an apology to all of the people who listen to this on a podcast. I released the one that you did with Eric, so late because I got home from Australia and then went, oh, I don't have my laptop, and I'd left my laptop sitting in the lobby of the hotel we're in. And so that had to get like literally shipped back to me. It took like a week. Like I hadn't even got back by the time I got back from Colorado. So I finally got it up the other day. So sorry, everyone. That was really late. And I got around to listening to it, and you guys did a great job. So thanks.
But you got your laptop back. You did get it back.
Yeah, they posted it back. Yeah,
wow.
It was really nice. Except I also left all my sports bras in the drawer, and
they didn't send those back. No, they're not.
No, they're not there anymore.
They're not even there. Somebody really is enjoying some new sports bras.
Oh, they're Lululemon ones too, which
those are.
Yeah,
they're
not cheap. So
that's expensive.
To the point, I'm like, should I do travel insurance on those, or is that just ridiculous? Anyway, I'll figure that one out later. But
chat, let us know. Yes. Should travel?
Yeah. Should I don't know.
This is a Zwift related 100%, because I mean, what else are you exercising in?
Yeah, well, I can't stream
you talk
at the
women's
moment.
Sports.
I'm like,
oh my gosh!
I literally.
That's a different kind of stream on Twitch. Yeah. If you haven't noticed, like that's a different sector that we're not maybe happy about. I'm not sure. Like,
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's why I won't be streaming for a bit too. But anyways, I will go to the store this weekend. Yes, got back from Colorado and wow, I mean, so I was over there on a conference, but I mean, how serendipitous is this, right? I put the note out to my team, my like Zwift race, like Riot. I was like, hey, I'm going to be in Colorado for 3 days. Like, if anybody happens to be in the area, Christy Tracy was staying for one night a mile away from the hotel I was in.
Whoa.
On the Friday night. So we went out for dinner. She came and picked me up. We went out for dinner. I was like, this is wild. And it was amazing. We had such a good chat.
And then so everybody knows Christy Tracy is a teammate from the Stars No Pins team. She rides for Riot too now. And I mean, that's an old school relationship, actually. And Christy Tracy has been a major part of the entire racing community. I think we're talking circa 2017, I would even say. Christy Tracy 2018 showed up on the scene right around then. I want to say even as far back as some of the Fearless stuff, maybe just getting involved there.
Yeah, so she's like an OG and we've been riding together, I want to say for like 5 years. And this is where meeting, and then the other one that was so random, I was at the conference, a lady came and sat down next to me. Hi, Anna, I rode with you up Ventop. I was like, what?
Just out of nowhere, just walks up.
Listens to the podcast. And I was like, wow, oh my gosh, I remember that. It was like a year ago when I went and did Ventop and prepped for the Everesting. And this rider came and joined me for the whole thing. And it was her. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just like unreal. So Zwifters in the wild. But what I want to say is like, for all those people who have met their Zwifting friends in real life, it's kind of a surreal experience because you talk to each other on Discord like every week and you feel like you know each other so well and you literally just chat away as if this isn't the first time you've met, right? And then you just leave. The leaving part's weird because then you go, well, may never see you ever again, but bye. You know, it's such a like unbelievable experience.
But at the same time, you have this depth of relationship with that person where like it's not just a happenstance meeting and it's like, well, I'll see you online. Like I'll see you online.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really like, I was like, see you, Em, I'll talk to you next week when we race together, but I'll probably never actually meet you in real life again. Like, it's just such a bizarre thing. But with Em, it was awesome. She bought her mum's like old school, like bike with like downshifters and toe clip pedals. But thankfully Em took me on a bike path because we ride on the other side of the road here. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be good doing this on the other side of the road. So we went for a really nice ride in Colorado and I totally forgot that we were at altitude and just thought I was really unfit until I got back and was like, oh yeah, we're at altitude.
Was it 5 or 7,000?
Oh, I only know meters. It's like 1,800 meters.
Yeah, you were pushing, I think, somewhere between 5 and 7 then. Yeah, somewhere between 5 and 7,000 feet. So, I mean, just where it starts to get, like, it will impact you for sure. Yeah, gotcha. Huh.
Yeah, but it was good. It was great. It was a super awesome experience. And Em gave me the package, the Zwift plays. And
you got the
I
stuff.
was like, so.
And they let you through all of the customs. Everything was fine. The plays made it back home without any problems.
Yeah. Exactly. No problems. They had to go. I only took hand luggage because I didn't want to I had short connecting flights. So they were in the hand luggage. They were fine. I was like, sweet. I don't know if this is good for me to be saying this. Anyway, they were fine. Hopefully I'm not going to get in trouble for that later.
Oh my God. So
anyway,
I want to go on to Zwift plays. I want to go on to those Zwift plays real quick. But for me, we had state championships last week. I came into the race here on the mountain bike. It was state championships, and it's also part of our state series. And I was feeling pretty good coming in. I had rested up a lot and just had a little bit of bad luck. And I don't know if I could have beat Daxton Mock Rates for the Bear National team. He's been racing World Cups. I think he did 3 or 4 of them and then came back home. Crazy fast young gun right now who's coming up. And me and him got away off the front, and it's his home trails. It's actually at Trek. at the headquarters. So at the same
Ooh.
place that we have the Trek Cyclocross World Cup that comes, that
Yeah.
was the same. Well, maybe not the exact same grounds. I'm not sure. Like they have these two separate places. So there's headquarters across the street, and then there's like a little bit of farm field across the street that you go through. You don't go through that, but you go around it, and then they have this whole area called the Trek Trails, and the Trek Trails is like testing ground and group rides at lunchtime where they take all the bikes that they're doing stuff with and ride them like crazy. And they have like pretty big hit downhill sections, tech stuff. But they set up 2 cross country races there every year. The state series as well as the high school series has a pretty big race there. And so this year, state championships, you could get a little red cow. Actually,
I saw those on
yeah,
your.
yeah. So Gabby won her race. She had a great race, and she's actually coming around really well with her technical skills. That was one of her main holdups. She's got amazing fitness, but being able to ride a mountain bike through really tight single track and very technical stuff has been a thing. But she's starting to take KOMs even on downhills now, which is like, oh, okay, you're starting to get to where you need to be. But for my race, I crashed on one of the downhills trying to follow Daxton Bach, his home trails, and kind of just laid there. You can see my report. I wrote like a little race report on Instagram and Facebook if those are interested. A couple of videos and stuff. But yeah, it and then got up and got on a train with 2 of the other really highly contested competitors that are there all the time in the series, Cole House and Ben Sankerich, and jumped on their train, and they kind of got content. And I was like, oh, I could tell Daxton was going away, so I went into chase mode. It was literally probably like 95. Pushing like 35 degrees C or something. It was pretty hot out and really humid, and couldn't close it down. And Dax was just better on the day. I think that's just reality. He's stupid fast, but second place, state championship. Not
Wow,
bad.
that's
Not
good.
bad. Yeah, it's good, especially in the War Series. Like, Dax can take podiums at the national level minimum, and I think is going really going places with this, and super serious and So to even be like in the conversation that I think I might have been able to battle with him to the line is really, really great for me, especially right, I don't know. The guy's literally 20 years younger than me, I think. So there's also that. Like, I don't think that's an excuse anymore, though. I don't even like saying that. Like, I like feel like a little bit like even saying that. Like, is that my own like pride, or is that
No,
like
I think there's a reason you have age categories in like masters sport.
yeah.
There is, right?
Yeah.
It's just.
But like,
Yeah, so
the thing is weird. Is like, I think part of my thing with that, and this is a little related, because I think a lot of people in this space are probably like older cyclists too. I think the demographic is mainly my age, or slightly younger and older. And like, for me, what's weird about that is like, I'm currently breaking KOMs from 10 years younger of my own that no one's been able to take. And so I'm kind of like, to jump into a master's category right now would be like, I feel like it'd be wrong. Like, I feel like it would just not be, because I'm getting way stronger than I've ever been. Like, I think I'm not even peaked right now, and that I'm going to be peaking in like a month or so, a month and a half for some other races. And like, I think I might beat those times from 10 years ago by another 10, 15 seconds maybe. And like, that's just nuts. Like, so how could I justify being the old man category,
Oh, yeah. Do you think like 10 years ago your kids were really small, and you're in like the space I'm at now, where it's like every winter I feel like I go from like kid bug to like, oh my gosh.
There was a lot less space and a lot less education and experience too, like in cycling at that point. Like, I was racing pro and everything, but I never had the kind of guidance, information, and community around me in a way that I have now, and support in some ways, as well as like, yeah, I had a lot of little kids, and literally it was go from one thing to the next, and I probably wasn't getting enough sleep. Yeah. Like, there's probably like, I don't think it's like one thing. It's probably like 50 factors, you know what I mean, that are making the outcome.
Absolutely.
So,
well, yeah. Okay. Well, congrats on your second in the state championships. I've just started watching that Netflix series Quarterback. So I'm like all about like state champs and something playoffs and all of that cool stuff you guys do in America. I actually might
You guys
watch
don't have that stuff there?
I think we're a bit small where we are.
Yeah, so there's no like state
Yeah,
championships. It's
no.
only nationals.
Yeah. Like we don't have states. You might have like in a big sport, maybe like a regional
Okay,
championships, but
gotcha.
I like the big one would be like nationals. You know,
Yeah,
like
gotcha.
that's
Like it
the
doesn't make sense for you to have states. You don't have a federation. It's just one country.
yeah, and like we only have like tapping on 5 million people. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and like
if
you
you
can get
start
across
cutting
the
it down.
whole of the country in like a day, 2 days. Like, what's the?
Oh, like driving?
Yeah.
Like yeah, if you really hauled, like you could get to the South Island in a day and then drive the rest of it in a day, another day. Oh my gosh, I'm like, this is bad though. Like I'm a North Islander from our biggest city, so all the South Island listeners are probably like, she has no idea how long it takes to get down here. I don't drive it, I fly it. So it takes like an hour and a half to fly to Christchurch, which is like halfway down the South Island.
Hour and a half to fly. So like an hour and a half flight for us is not even Colorado. Like it's okay. So I'm just trying to get an idea of like the way why I'm thinking so differently. And like of course my silly Americanism here is like, you don't have states. There's no federation. There's no state rights. There's no like, what? How do you do things?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, because we're pretty much just like the size of a state, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. It totally makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
like why make it more complicated? I mean, unless people get really
Exactly,
angry
yeah.
and they really like want to separate things out. But anyway, all right. So moving on to let's do this with plays first because you just talked about shipping them into your country. You got them in, and now no one's taking them from
Now they're
you.
Someone's taking them.
Now,
I did
have
see
you experienced them?
Yes. So someone came into chat and said, it's fine. They were on the plane. Like people take Nintendo Switches. So sweet. Thank you. I don't feel so guilty. I was going to like plane down it. But yes, I hooked them up yesterday and did the Canyon Shram ride to like get myself used to them. And shout out to, I think it was Mike from Herd. There are a few people. There were like 5 people who shouted out the podcast. And I was like, oh, thanks, guys.
Really?
And then Mike was sort of, PMing me behind the scenes, just being like, it's awesome and thanks so much.
Nice.
So anyway, shout out to Mike from Herd because he made the ride really enjoyable. So I know you and Eric went deep into the play, so I don't want to go like too deep in things, but I'll just say my experience. Like super easy getting them on my handlebars for one. I was like, oh, they're already on. Turn them on and like, boom, like I was using them. So I was like, okay, well, this was awesome. Like there was no like faffing around with stuff. It was just super simple. A couple of things I had to get used to like straight off the bat. Like I was glad I was riding before the group ride is I was using one pedal for steering. So I was using the right pedal to just go in, out, in, out. But it was braking, whichever way where you pull them, you pull them.
Okay.
So for some reason, my brain just thought to only do it with my right hand, that like left would be that way and right would be the other way, not like that. So anyway, that was me. And for a while I was like, why am I braking? Like, why do I keep braking? I was like, oh, because there's a pedal on the other hand. Like, anyway, weird brain thing. And then
my initial feedback on the plays was I was afraid that we were gonna break, that we were gonna accidentally hit that brake a little bit. And I actually have keep going, but I have something related to that.
And then the only other thing, and I think this could potentially come if they allow you to customize it a little yourself, is I'm always going to camera angle 6. So I always do the like flick back to see where everybody is, especially if you're trying to do a breakaway or you've just hit like the top of a KOM and you want to just get a feel for what the peloton behind you is doing. Like if it's stretched out, okay, keep the pace on. If everyone's in a clump behind you, pull in. So I always go to camera angle 6 when I'm racing. And I loved it on the plays. You could just push the like back arrow, right? And we'd go to 6. But what I wanted was to just push it again for it to come back again. But it must be on like, I think it's on a 5-second
like rotation or something.
Yeah. So you click it, it goes camera angle 6 and you can't get out of it until it just flicks itself back after 5 seconds. And so I was like, oh, I'd love it if they made that like a click action. So like click 6, click back 1.
Yeah,
Click 6,
like
click
the
back.
customization would be pretty cool. Like to be able to, like around that, my idea would be like, well, I want 3 camera angles. I want to be able to go boom, boom, boom on those 3 and only those 3 or something. Or, you know what I mean? Or like be able to quickly find those. Because, yeah, camera angles is something where I still use the keyboard probably then a little bit, you know, if I really
Yeah.
want them. So,
I think I would still use the keyboard for that because I was like, oh gosh, like once I did it a few times, I was like, I'm like losing the pack in front of me because I'm like waiting for it to flick back again and I couldn't get out of it quickly. So, but
need
the
some
other
quick
thing I just
action.
love
What about
about it,
sprinting? What about sprinting?
like, in what
Did you get
regard?
into a sprint? Did you get into an
Oh
actual
no,
sprint with him? Okay. Okay.
no,
Just
because
wondering.
that's where I may still keep the hotkey power up on my drops.
Ah, interesting. Huh.
Because if I'm sprinting in my drops, I still want quick access to that power up button. So I may potentially keep that there for that, unless I'm just happy sprinting in my hoods. But yeah, I think I'd still sprint in my drops because
I'm trying to think, like, can I reach it with my thumb, even in my drops in some sort of way? I don't know. Huh. No, I don't think so. Interesting. Huh. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different variations of the ways that you could, um, use lots of
um,
different features there with because there's so many places to put your hands on handlebars for different actions that you're doing, especially for
yeah,
sprinting in the drops. That one I had a little
yeah.
bit of trouble with, and I was wondering if you did as well, where it's like did they interfere with your sprint at all? Like that was the other thing. Like if you went
Oh,
full
yeah.
gas and like trying to really grab the bars, and like sometimes you want to grab the bars in different ways in different places, you know? And so like are they in the way
Yeah.
while you're trying to do that? I actually have a friend, not gonna my name, I don't even know if he knows I was gonna share this.
Name and
Like
shame.
no name. There's no name on this one, but real quickly here, nothing on my desktop here besides this. He ended up doing this. This is right for
Oh,
some reason. Yeah, because he was afraid of
what
hitting the
the?
brake. Yeah, I know. I would probably do it the other way, I would think. Like turn him
How does he even
around.
hit? How does
Like
he hit
I
the
think I would turn them
buttons
around and
though?
hit the buttons that way probably. And
Is he
then
not using the buttons on those? For those listening, the buttons are like facing the wheel. So I don't even know how
yeah.
you'd get your thumb in
And
there.
then his brake is forward. I don't know. That's interesting. But his main thing was that he didn't want to brake and that they were hitting he was having a trouble sprinting too when he was grabbing the drops, and so that's why he did that. So I think he's just after the steering. That seems like the only thing he's interested in with it.
Ah. See, I
Yeah.
loved the I literally just got on and started riding and I could do all navigation just using the plays. Like I loved that. Just clicking around, doing everything. I made everything super simple. Like
Yeah,
that
I
part is
really
probably what
like
I
that
like
too.
more.
That's
Yeah.
big time.
Like
Big
so
time.
good. I do actually still have my bike on the Sturzo though, which I've like disabled for
Wait,
steering
why?
because I do.
Why?
So the only reason I do is because it's got a nice like little holder for the wheel, and when I'm riding, there's like a
Wait. You don't
slight.
have like a bike wheel holder besides the Sturzo?
I do, but it's really rigid. I actually kind of like
Ah, you
a
like to
little
play.
tiny bit of movement, a little bit
Huh.
of play in the front wheel. Like not enough that I'm like steering it, it's disabled, but enough that I did quite like that of the Sturzo, just like a little bit of like movement. Because I think what happened is because I've shattered one shoulder, it sits different on the bike. So I'm always a little like if I look at the end of a hard race, my wheel is like skewed to the left and the like block is freaking all over the show. So it's kind of nice. It allows me like a little bit of play.
Steering is coming up again here on one topic. We haven't really brought this one up, and there's a little bit more contention. I do feel like coming out of the community this last week, I've heard a little bit more of like, come on, like we need a solution here where this doesn't feel fair. I have heard at least almost once a day something about steering actually at this point, and that like, hey, we need people to have access to it in every country if they can, or at
Yeah.
least have something to work with. And Karsten just said I'd prefer, Karsten Ivany in chat over at YouTube, I'd prefer if the game searched for the draft of people that can steer. So like if you jump on the wheel quick enough, or I don't know if that kind of like kills the whole idea. And then like now the game is just steering you or something. I don't know. Like I don't know if that's the best solution, but something.
Yeah.
I don't know about adding like then it's just auto steering. It's kind of like adding aimbot to like and how much aimbot are we okay with? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I've got 2 points on it because I know that you and Eric talked about it on the pod, which was okay. So first one is like in the group ride I was in, there was maybe like 2 other people out of 50 who had steering. And what I was trying to do was like disable my steering so that my little avatar would just default and I didn't have to think about it. So I was like pushing both pedals in, pushing both pedals out. I thought there might be a way to like deactivate so it would just go back to like default, but there wasn't. So that could be quite nice because then I was like, oh, there's not enough people steering here. So I just want to kind of ride down the middle of the road. The other thing, though, the feedback. So all of the Grand Prix races had to give Zwift feedback on the upcoming like Grand Prix series and what they wanted to see. And one of the questions was if plays or steering could be like available for everybody, would you want to see it in the racing? And it was around like 60 to 65% of people, I think, said, yes, I do want it available. So one, I was like, oh, that doesn't seem a super high number, given that they caveated it with, we'll make sure everybody basically has plays, I guess. So that wasn't super high. So I guess, is there still just people who don't want it, you know?
Yeah, that might be a thing. I think that simplicity in racing is kind of nice sometimes too. Like, I gotta say though, so I was on the fence of that a little bit. I thought like I'd use the plays a lot, then I didn't use them for a while. Okay. And I was like, do I like this better? Right. And I almost, okay, whatever. And then like I was getting into some races that I took a little bit more seriously, and I knew a bunch of people had plays, and I was like, all right, I'm going to put them on today and then like, once I got further into that 5 races in a row day, I did the tiny races or 6 or whatever. And then I did like 3 more or 4 more after or something. And after a few races, I started realizing there were little things I was doing that I don't ever want to give up anymore, actually. Like climb drafting and the little like ways I could find new draft or just kind of slot in, and like the ability to say, this is my space and not yours to someone else like I don't ever want to go back from that because the way that it functions right now, somebody can kind of push up on you and literally push your avatar out. And like you're putting out the same power almost, and like you're kind of fighting for this space, and it almost feels unfair that they can do that to you. So I was like, oh, this solves that problem. That no, I want this space. I can communicate that and I can hold it there and say, no, you got to go around me. Like that one especially really. And so it's not just about, I think a lot of people focus a ton on the breakaway factor, to get away, people can't draft on you factor. And I agree there is something that we need maybe to equalize the field, but it's actually the little dynamics within how do I interact with the pack and place my avatar well. And this isn't saying also though, if you are using them, another thing is like, I'm not always steering all the time either. I see people constantly steering. And just so you know, I've said this once before, but I'm not sure it's totally awareness out there. Pack Dynamics 4.1 still interacts with your avatar and the rest of the pack if you're not steering. So it still does things to put you places. Now, if it doesn't put you exactly where you want to be, little things here and there, or keeping a space where you see an avatar pushing up on you, that's one of the advantages for sure. Anyway, so
I think I agree with that. I think I don't use them all the time. One thing I found really useful for it, just in the short sort of experience I've had so far, is that, which was a lot easier with the plays than the Sturzo, because I feel like you can more easily, I'm sitting here doing this as I'm talking, is like you can like fine tune a lot better. So like what I really enjoyed was if I didn't like the position in the pack I was in, I could kind of slowly drift back to the back of the pack and then like change to a new position and then move up the pack again. So it stops you having that kind of boxed in feeling. And especially if you know a course really well and you're like, okay, well, this sprint segment is going to come with like a right hand bend or something like that. You can kind of start to position prior to that coming up to make sure you're in a really good spot before you get there, right? So I really enjoyed that you had at some points, I was like, oh, I want to change where I'm at and I can actually kind of have control over how to do that. It was fun. Like it made it good. And I think in racing, if everyone had the opportunity to use them, although Carsten has a good point, like if everybody's got them, how will the fighting for position work, you know? Because I do notice on Zwift, you can still like ride through people and that will make it not work because it'll just be a whole weird kind of churn. But I think that I'm excited to see some races where like, and I know Tiny's been doing ones where everyone has them, so he'd have a better say on that. I haven't done one where everyone's got them, but I like it. Like I think it just adds like some more nuance to the game.
All right, so there's Anna's take. There's a lot of chatter about this. Like we need to just, I mean, maybe we have somebody from Zwift on eventually here to talk plays. Not anytime soon-ish, I would think, just because let's wait a little ways down the line and maybe, have something along those lines. Because there's so many questions that come through specifically on plays. I mean, this is always a hot button topic for sure. I want to see the Phillipsen, but this is one of the best comments, and then we'll move on here. But I want to have a Phillipsen button on the play where I can overtake people making a break and force them into the barrier. Oh, gosh.
Far out. What was like, oh, what was he thinking?
No, man. I'm sorry, but that one was a little bit like, leave him alone. Like,
dude, you've, like, sorry, I'll make a comment on this as well. Like, you're in the green points jersey that you've won. Like, he won it, unless he'd crashed out of the tour, he was going to have it. He'd won 4 stages. Dude, like, you've just given away all your goodwill of how people felt towards you by it felt like a stupid hot-headed move, right?
It was hot-headed,
and
and he's young, he's younger, you know what I mean? Like, he's got that, like, I wrote a comment on Lantern Druge's take on it a little while back, specifically not on that one, but on my opinion, his deviation that should have been a relegation, the final one, where I was like, that was too much. That one was, come on. But that he's got the young will to win, which I respect. He's got that like bullheaded, I just want the prize and I will do what it takes to get it, and like everything else like is just behind that idea that's in his head. You know what I mean? Literally everything else goes to the side. And I have a lot of respect for that kind of abandonment. Like I actually do. But sometimes that abandonment can take over all the other functions of being a human. Right?
Yeah.
And so like I was kind of like, bro, the dude's just trying to get in the breakaway and you guys are literally blocking the whole road and he's trying to go. Like you can't anyways, like as if we're all supposed to like sit back and be like, okay, it's Alpecin Koenig day, they can do whatever they want at the front. Like, no. So
yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Are we going to talk a bit of TDFF? By the way, I haven't seen the latest stage. I didn't say
did you see you saw yesterday's though? You saw
Yes, I'm up to stage 4. Yeah.
You've seen
where we had the breakaway.
The crazy breakaway that nobody actually got to see. Like,
oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's women's.
They went live. Well, I think the first day, I don't know what happened, but the first day we had full coverage from start to finish, right?
Mm.
And then the rest of the days we didn't. And I was kind of like, is this like, okay, was this a response to the first day because they didn't ride aggressive in the first day, really? It felt like it was kind of like, let's get into it. And it was just kind of like a happenstance. It seemed like how they were going to, like, it isn't like that. And even commentators were like, it isn't usually like this. I don't know why they're chilling so much today. What's going on? And then the rest of the days actually ended up being, it seems like, pretty exciting actually throughout the rest of them. But when it comes to from start to finish. So I'm hoping it wasn't a response to the first day and it was already planned. That I'm assuming this kind of stuff is planned way, way out. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think yesterday was such a long stage, so maybe it's based on a time limit. So they'll
Maybe
show
is it just
like
America? Tell me in other countries. Maybe it was only the
uh,
Peacock coverage that was that way. I'm
could
not
have been.
sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I kind of tune in because I don't have like I can't sit and watch it for like 3 or 4 hours. I usually kind of like go to the start where they do like a few interviews and stuff, and then I watch a little bit of break formation and then go away. But I don't think they had break formation. But anyway, yeah, it's great racing. If you're not tuning in to watch this and you tuned in to watch the men's racing, like shame on you. You should be tuning in to watch.
I was wondering.
Because
Okay, I was wondering if TDFF should happen first, though. Like if it should happen before, because okay, you have 3 weeks, and I'm like really excited about TDFF. I'm all about it. Like I'm really enjoying it. I'm also a little bit like I've watched Tour de France for 3 weeks. Like there's like I've been training for 3 weeks. I need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wonder if we should do
break,
the 8-day race first, because then everyone's going to watch all the way through the most traditional. And I'm not trying to hype men's up higher or anything. It's everyone's going to watch all of that. And if we did TDFF first, would it get better viewership because people were like, I just watched 3 weeks of Tour de France? Or is this a good way to like roll it on? I'm wondering, like, what do you think?
I see pros and cons either way of whether it's before or whether it's after. Yeah, I mean, people have cycling fatigue at the moment. Like I've been waking up every morning at 5 to watch this racing for the last 3 weeks. And now I'm doing it in the women's racing too. So yeah, like there's a commitment if you're wanting to watch this. I think the good thing for me with the men's racing was as soon as Vingo took all that time on the TT, I kind of lost a bit of interest. I'm a real like GC tension person. I'm not there to kind of see who gets the mountain jersey or like I'm not super like excited by breakaway stages. I'm a GC tension. So as soon as that tension goes, I kind of like lose a bit of interest. So I kind of lost interest after. I don't even think I watched the last like 2 stages of the men's race. So then I could like gather my energy again and get prepped for the women's racing. So I think that for me worked well. Now on the women's racing, I've just seen something come in. It's not a result, but Lorena Wiebes has
say this because it's not a result.
Lorena Wiebes has abandoned the Tour de France,
which is
Femmes.
huge.
Now, for those who,
especially today,
for those who don't
today is like a downhill all the way. Like,
yeah, it's a sprint stage. So for those who don't watch women's racing, like, you know, I need to have a conversation with you at another time, or even at this time, you should watch women's racing, and I don't know why you're not. But if you don't, that would be like Jesper Philipsen abandoning the day before the Champs-Élysées.
Yep.
That's how big it is. Like, she is their sprinter. She would likely get the green jersey. Now, Amy has picked up on something that I think as well. So she's said, like, what is going on here? She said stomach trouble, but it's kind of strange. There's no social media about it. There is something weird on that SD Works team, like weird going on. I don't know what it is, but like I watched that first stage, like Lotte Kopecky and Casanova Doma are like my girls. They're like, I'm fangirls on both of them. I love them. And so Lotte Kopecky, when I was watching her on that mountain, I was like, she's nowhere near her SD Works train. Now, either that's like on purpose because she wants to surprise everybody, or she's just going rogue, man. And she is like, I need to up my value because as soon as this tour is finished, I'm off to a new team and I need to make sure I get the best price. Like, I don't know your thoughts, but this team is, and yesterday their tactics were like, I mean, I'm not a tactics, expert, but like,
well, the final, yesterday, Lotte Kopecky went, like, I was okay with every single move that they made up until when she went at the end by herself to try and hold on to yellow. And that's when I was like, what is she? She's got all these people that are like 20, 30 seconds back. and they ended up catching her anyways. And then it came
yeah.
down way quicker when they actually caught her. So I think you may be onto something that Kopecky may feel boxed into a certain rider type and certain rider role that she's like, dude, I've won classics. I can ride away from anybody and I can do this on crazy hilly courses and you're not going to box me in. You're not going to put me into this role and I can go do. And so and I only see that though in yesterday's stage, I only see that in the final move she made. All the rest of them were masterminded, in my opinion. All the rest of the moves, I was like, that's so smart. That's amazing. Like sending one rider up to try and chase down the breakaway about halfway through the stage. And then Kopecky countering that move in some sort of a way because it's already brought some time back. Like there was some perfect, like forcing everybody to work around SD Works getting a free ride. Like it was like so well done, actually. They're pretty smart. But yeah, I could see the tension even in the sprint to the line between Kopecky and Wiebes when she led her out. And then in the interview, she said, I was going all in. And I'm like, where is she? I was like, well, you were going all in and she barely beat you. And I almost felt like she celebrated because she beat her teammate who might have beat her. Like, whoa, what is going on?
I know, it was like, and then also like, so yesterday the breakaway was like ahead for like there was a leader, Alpecin Phoenix leader, out the front. Is it Yara Castelline? Gosh, I hope I have that right. For like 20 kilometers, it was clear she was going to win. And the SD Works rider Demi Vollering, their GC rider, crosses the line with this quasi stage finish, like, hey, whoa, did I just win? And I'm like, do you guys have microphones? Like, someone must have told you there's someone out there. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, it's the weirdest thing. It's like if you, and I'll give them a little bit of benefit of the doubt because they don't have race radios at Worlds, but it's like the Dutch women's team at Worlds. It is so weird. It's like they have no idea what's going on. And I think what I'm kind of like getting a vibe of is that like team of champions instead of a champion team. So they've got a rider out in the breakaway. Now that rider, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong because I've never cycled in a cycle race. So I probably don't know what I'm doing, but I watch a lot and I love tactics. That rider, Brandenfeld, I think, should have been saying like, hey, here's the breakaway. Here's how fast we're going. Oh, someone's gone off the front. They're still off the front. We haven't caught them. Hey, guys, we haven't caught them. Hey, we're slow. Like, we do that in freaking ZRL races. Like, if we've got someone up the road, they're saying, like, hey, we're going 38 kilometers an hour. Hey, someone's just gone off the... Like, what? Am I getting too worked up here? But, like, what are they doing?
Well, I don't think you got too worked up because even Crossan am I saying? I hope I'm saying... He seemed slightly annoyed by Demi's reaction, actually, in the commentary. Like, I could tell he was kind of like, what is she doing? And he had to, like, say a couple of different times, like, no. And I'm a big Valorant fan, like, huge fan. Like, I don't know what she was doing. Nobody knows, like, why she was, like, but it looked like an almost celebration and then a what the heck kind of a moment, you know? So,
yeah.
Or we're just making a bunch of hype and drama because it's fun to do, and we're big sports fans. So there's that too.
Do you know who benefits from all this drama is Annemiek van Vleuten, who's just sitting there every day.
Did you see her over the top of the final KOM yesterday? I've never seen someone work so hard. I'm not kidding. I've never seen anyone work that hard to close a gap. I'm like her throwing her body. It was like I've seen people pedal hard. I don't know if I've ever seen someone throw their body into the pedals like that before, from literal head to toe, to make sure the power was being produced. It was no longer her legs, it looked like her legs were an extension of entire body throws to just keep the pedals going to get across that gap. It was insane. Then they come over the top. She rests for like 2 or 3 minutes and then attacks Vollering. Yeah. I know it was Vollering, right? That was with her as well as a teammate. Yeah. Who was the teammate? I'm not sure what the teammate was.
I can't remember the Movistar teammate, but what a great teammate, because she basically pulled her into the, like, slingshotted her into that attack. But all I could think, and I'm such a Zwifter, right, is like, could you imagine her on a freaking bike trainer? Like, I don't think if a bike training company wants to know if their trainer will like stand the test of an athlete, get Annemiek van Vleuten on it, because she'd be like rocking and rolling that thing, man. Like, it was insane. Like, and a shout out to Annemiek van Vleuten. Like, I know she's not always like a fan favorite, but man, I appreciate her bluntness. So she won a stage at Tour de, it was the one right before this, the Giro, the women's Giro,
yeah.
Girodonna. She she like won a stage, and the interview afterwards, they said, "Hey, would you like to dedicate the stage to anyone?" And she just looks straight at the camera. She's like, "No." I was like, I think if she'd actually,
questions though, sometimes I'm sorry, but like, I don't know what's going on with the questions. Okay, like, yeah, I mean, I think there's a language barrier though for English. I don't know, like, I feel like
yeah,
when they do the questions in the English, and not just for the riders, but I also feel like the interviewer is doing their best to use English to make an interesting question, but they're very like basic rote questions because it's not their first language, right? So it feels just kind of like, we'll get the English ones out of the way. How does this feel? This is an amazing moment for you. And how is that? And you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on here?
Yeah, true. But she's just like, she's just straight shooter, man. She's like, no, don't dedicate. She probably would just dedicate it to herself. Like, I put in the work. The stage is for me, you know?
Totally.
So anyway,
Totally.
if you haven't started watching it, watch it, because I think today's stage, which I have no idea, looks like pretty wild as well. So go check it out.
Yeah, it's actually, if you can tell with the way we're just getting excited about the moves and everything. And the key comment I'm seeing over in chat is that women's cycling is way less predictable, way more like able to make splits, aggression. I mean, yesterday we had a 10-minute up the road 14-person breakaway that was brought back, whatever, if you haven't watched, well, it's one day later, brought back in the final. Somebody gets away. Then the day before, someone gets caught in the last 200 meters. I mean, it's kind of nonstop, and I think it's only going to get better with only a few days left. Everyone's going to be hunting for stages, and like, there's only so many left to get. So I think all the teams are going to be on the hunt. So it's only going to get better for sure.
And a big shout out to the Alpecin women's team, because like, geez, you're doing what Canyon SRAM should be doing, which is just
lighten it up,
bossing.
It looks to me like Neodoma's the only ones that's interested in actually like Neodoma and a couple others like actually lighten it up. I think
unfortunately Canyon SRAM is kind of stuck in a Kesha is too good for just stage wins, but not good enough for a GC win. So they're kind of in, it looks to me like that kind of middle ground where it's like a team is trying to support Kesha to get a podium, which is fine. Whereas Alpecin just seems like they're like all about stage wins and have the freedom to do that and have the strong enough riders to do that. So it's unreal. And like, shout out to also like Puck Peters, who's on that team, who's just like dominating mountain biking as well. So they're doing a lot for women's sport.
Like, if you were going to compare it to the men's, like they're in the Ineos position with the Rodriguez or Pidcock kind of situation where it's like, who are we going to support? Are we going to go for stage wins? But we got to use our resources to support who we can kind of get at least to somewhere kind of a thing. So yeah, I'd have to agree. I
kind of find it hard for if I was a rider like Kesha, because you couldn't even go for stage wins yourself because you're still a GC threat. So you kind of don't have, it's her and Ashley Moolman Passio will be really interesting, that battle for, I think, what will be the podium is who's going to take that out. And I think, again, unfortunately a little bit for Cash, I think Ashley might be better in the big mountains, right? So yeah, we'll see how that eventuates.
Be really interesting to watch though. Yeah. Super interesting to watch though. And I'm hoping for some upsets. Like, I really am. Nothing against Annemiek, but and kudos. She can do what's just amazing, amazing, amazing. But of course, you're always looking for a little bit more disruption for some fun racing. So definitely watching
absolutely.
around. So, all right. Women's side of things as well. The women's series is still going on. We are doing coverage of that. The series number 3, the last race we are going to be broadcasting next week, Tuesday, kind of segueing into all the racing that's actually going on during the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, the winter. Now I'm wondering, it always crosses my mind, are you seeing just a lot more people in your hemisphere racing and riding Zwift? And is that why it feels like there's this, I mean, Sisu is run by people in the Southern Hemisphere, and that's one of the largest. They just did a post saying that there was like 3,000 participants in their series, this past series that they did. So, wow. I mean, like big, huge numbers. And I'm just kind of amazed at the numbers being so incredibly high at a time of year when they're usually not so high.
So do you know what I think it is I don't think it's just Southern Hemisphere people, because I think in those numbers, I think we're almost static, maybe a little bit of growth, but I don't see that there's a whole bunch of Kiwis and Aussies who are like, oh, let's keep this winter racing, like trucking along. Actually, sometimes even maybe the reverse. A lot of, I know this could be anecdotal, but a lot of like Kiwis have gone and done like the world champs, you know, like racing overseas. So do you know what I think it is, and it's comes back to when we had these organizers on the show, like from Sisu and from Chasing Yellow, and it's probably their second or third year that they've had this on the calendar. And I think it's that when that happens, you know, like, oh, hey, it's July. That's the Chasing Yellow thing. Or like Sisu Tour, that's always on at this time. And I know it's a really good event. I think it's just a fact of well-organized events that are enjoyable and have been on the calendar for a couple of years now, and they've sort of cemented themselves, right? So you just know they're coming around, and it just will build. I personally think that's the reason.
Yeah, good call. I think you're right too. I think that we have a mainstay now at this point of some pretty well-organized series that people can trust that they're going to be there. They're familiar. They know that they're well run. They know where to go to find the results and the information about it. And I mean, yes, there's still some, you know, cracks here and there that might be filled in, and still road work to do a little bit here and there. But I think that that's probably, I'd have to agree with that one. And then there's also new things that are popping up, and the ladder league seems to be getting some pretty good attention, actually. Again, been chatting with them, perhaps doing some broadcasts actually with them as soon as we can. But ladder league, because it's a tournament structure, I want to just say, like, the only reason that we haven't interacted with it is like tournament structures and data is really hard. Like it's really hard to have, hey, let's identify these two teams. Let's figure out what's going on with just those two teams live, separate all that out, and then put it all up against each other and throw it out there. And it's like, whoa, okay, like there's, and then one after another. But they are doing an amazing job in the esports area, in my opinion, because that's one of the big attractions when it comes to a lot of esports. I'm wondering how hard that's going to stick, because that's a newer thing. Like, we're talking about these other series, Sisu, Chasing Tour, Women's Series. You know, we've always had something kind of around Worlds that's been going on around this time of year too. But the Ladder League is a whole new concept in some ways. Like, we have never really seen a community organized tournament structure head to head like that. And I want to see if it sticks. And if there's enough participation that it can really get the organization around it. Now, everything has to be done through third-party organization, and it takes a lot of time to make that happen. And then to like graphically present that and market it is almost like a full-time business gig. I mean, that's a pretty major undertaking.
Yeah, which on that, I mean, this is kind of maybe opening a different can of worms, but so with these event organizers, I mean, is there a move in the future where you will like we do in traditional ways, will you you pay for you guys, like you pay your membership to USAT, I'm guessing, USA, oh, that's triathlon. What's your cycling one?
USA Cycling.
Okay.
Yeah.
USAC then, I guess.
USAC instead of USAT? Yeah.
Yeah. So you pay your membership to USA Cycling, but I'm sure when you go and enter these individual events, you pay to enter them, right? I mean, is that a model that's going to end up happening? Like you pay your subscription to Zwift because that offers the platform. And then if you want to go into the Chasing Yellow tour, it's like a $10 entry fee. Like, is this where it's going? Because there's a lot of volunteer hours being put into this. Like, and part of it, I guess, is just passion to put on a good event. But part of it must also be like, we want to have something that's a staple in the community that people see value in and at some point are willing to pay for it.
Well, this is a good transition to like, is there a competitive space that's opening that door up, and could it be successful? And the RGT have tried that in some ways. I remember like they were, but I think that they weren't ready for the amount of demand that might come, and the game just didn't look that great. I mean, it's still around and everything. I'm not saying it's gone away or anything, but like it for some reason it just wasn't ready. I mean, IndiVelo's latest update, they've said, you put this in the notes, part of IndiVelo's mission is to be a service provider to other platforms, but they also put the to raise standard of online cycling everywhere. And some of this like service provider tools that they have are kind of like crazy. Like you could just put your branding in the game. Like they have a way that they can you can like put logos and whatever you want to. And so like what I immediately go to is like, well, how do how does the Tour de France do this? They have like the timing presented by this. They have the the replay of the sprint jersey presented by this, and instead of the user paying something, well, and also though the teams also I think pay a fee to be a part of that in some sort of way.
Yeah.
I mean, so like there's these different ways of monetization that start to get involved, but you have to have the tools in place for that kind of stuff. And it looks to me like IndiVelo is opening that door up, and I'm wondering, like remember we said this about IndiVelo, that it was going to be this like test space about what works and what doesn't work. Like it might not get the users necessarily, but it's doing some things that are really disruptive.
So when I saw those updates, I was going to like send them to you, and then I saw it in the show notes. I was like, oh great, we'll talk about it. But yeah, so there's a few updates, and they've kind of categorized them as individual updates, which are, the typical things like, I don't know, bug fixes and stuff. Then there was another category called National Governing Bodies, Organizers and Streamers. And that was, you can present and broadcast your own races using your own branding with seamless integration of UI data, which was quite cool because that's something I struggle with at the moment, into streaming software such as vMix, which is what we're using now on this broadcast. And you can create professional quality branded broadcasts with your own logos, So that's quite cool. And then the last category was other platforms. And I was like, is that what? Zwift? My Whoosh? Like, is that what they mean? Because, okay, that's really interesting. And then, like you can now benefit from all the back-end data processing that IndiVelo provides, but skinned to look like your own brand. Now, is the Zwift avatar, though, too closely related to Zwift the product? Because I don't see Zwift like skinning up IndiVelo racing, because you watch it and be like, well, that's not Zwift. So I don't know.
Like you wouldn't see the same pedaling style, and like you wouldn't see the same movements, kind
different.
Of a thing. Yeah.
And it's not the same world.
And I've always felt that too, that like, how could that work? Like, and how much time would it make it to make that work? How much undertaking is that? Like the idea from IndiVelo, it seems to me, is that, hey, we're going to take all this workload off of all these other platforms to provide this racing platform that has all the back end stuff that you need to make happen. That's a huge undertaking to make it happen. So we just built this real simply without the skin and it looking as pretty and all this kind of stuff or whatever. And you can just bring your skin in. But then at the same time, it's like, will it actually look exactly like my brand? Because my brand isn't just like the avatar kind of looks that way. It moves this way. It does it this way. It does this that way. And so I have always kind of like been like, I do agree with that. I mean, I like the idea a lot. How is that going to work out? Like, how is it actually going to get to there where a brand is going to feel comfortable that it actually looks like its own brand?
Yeah, because the brand for Zwift isn't just, the orange Z. Like, the brand is the worlds that they have in game. Like I said, how the avatar looks, all of that. So yeah, I'm like, I am super interested to see where that goes though, because part of what we talked about originally when we had that big chat on IndiVelo was that, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's what they've put there. Like, we want to raise the standard of online cycling everywhere. And I kind of see, and I hope, I have no idea, but I do hope that this is where it's going, is that IndiVelo is providing a really high quality racing platform that can be used by other platforms. Because I personally like, and this is just me personally, like I would love it because the racing experience on IndiVelo is like almost unmatched. Like, it's really good. But I also really like going on Zwift. Like, I just love that whole ecosystem. So if the two can be like kind of married together, that would be like a-okay with me.
Yeah, I hear that sentiment actually a lot. I actually hear one of the sentiments I hear coming a lot too is your take the other day. Now I've started hearing it from other people who I don't think actually said, like, they don't want to see a splintered community too. Like, they feel like the community is being torn apart a little bit, and they're like, ouch, that hurts. I don't want that. Like, let's get these two things working together. So yeah, interesting. I am seeing Christopher Schranker coming in saying that he's actually interviewing Dr. Gilbert over on Virtual Velo podcast tomorrow. So be on the watch out for that for more details, as well as to what the guys over at IV are up to. So optimal streaming series on Zwift Insider, and the latest one that they've done, speaking of being able to broadcast things and the whole streaming side of things. Well, a little bit of transition into that. What is the best microphone and getting your microphone set up? One topic that comes up often in this space is, hey, you just turn on the camera and start chatting like all those Twitch streamers. No, not even close. My first go at streaming cycling was the loudest mess you could ever, like, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. The whole room sounded like I was in something of like a wind turbine mixed with like a fryer or something. Like, it was so bad. And so audio is one of the biggest struggles to getting a streaming setup actually functioning. And actually Swimsuit Insider did an amazing job putting together. Now, the only feedback I had we put together an article on it, was they're all USB digital audio, direct digital audio interfaces to the microphone with he didn't put any XLR options in there up front. So I was kind of like, hey, this one that everyone sees on ZCL every single day is an XLR with a digital interface in. I know I'm getting into the tech stuff, but I was like, because he actually asked me like, well, which one are you using? And I said, well, I'm using the RE20 from Audio Technica, and I was kind of like proud of it. And then I didn't see it in there. I was like, what the heck, man? Like, what's the deal? This is like known for being one of the best. And he was like, dude, that thing is like complicated. Okay.
It's such a Nathan thing, right? It's like, what? Mainstream? No, not like a USB.
No, this is okay. When I actually got trained by an audio tech guy. When I had a buddy in this space who owned one of the not the biggest, but one of the most known local recording studios for music and podcasts, right? And I said, hey, bud, he's a cyclist too. Train me up. Show me what to do. This is the mainstream. We're the weirdos, okay? The streaming world, to all the audio guys, he was like, what do you want to do? You want to just plug it into your computer and just go straight? That's not pure. He was all like, it's not pure. It's not actually even grabbing the audio in the same way. He was all like, I was like, all right, well, set me up with whatever you think is and so like he got me a board and a digital interface. And then I had to learn a bunch about actually managing audio, which upgraded my game big time, but it definitely wasn't just plug and play. That's for sure. And obviously I think for getting people set up nowadays, I mean, we're talking 8 years later, all these solutions have come out because streaming blew up so big that back when I first started, there were only a few microphones and they weren't really made for noise canceling as well for the direct from the microphone to a USB. So there have been some big jumps. And when you got that Shure, Anna, and I heard it, and I found, and it was like, that's just a USB mic. I was actually super impressed, honestly.
Yeah. And the little bit of echo I still have is because like we refloored this entire room from carpet to like nice flooring that would be good for sweat, but obviously not like as good for sound. So that's why. But yes, so this mic actually is rated number 1 in the article. Now I got this because I watched Lantern Rouge podcast and had a look what Benji and Lantern were using. And I was like, oh, I want that one because they sound good. But it is actually a really good mic. It is a little bit pricey though. So there we go. But
that one has a lot of bass on it. It really does a lot of good stuff with the voice, actually, to keep the bass in the voice. I feel like this one is almost too real. This one grabs like all of the twang in your voice as well too, but it's also made for singing into a little bit, I think. So I think that's why.
I just thought that was your accent.
Ugh, no,
a little bit of twang.
It's the microphone.
I sat next to someone on the plane from Wisconsin. That's where you're from, right?
From Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah, he sounded a lot different to you. Wow. Like, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm near the city. I'm near the city in the south of Wisconsin, and I still have, but I said that, Wisconsin. I still have that, but like, I have a little more of draw and not as much of a wah. Nah.
Yeah, okay. Well, this guy sounded different, but anyway, we had a good chat. So the reason I kind of like these articles, now it's a whole series, so we might touch on this sort of each week, is I will get back in the streaming game. I'm having my operation in like 3 weeks, and then after that, it'll kind of be back into streaming, back getting ready to racing. And it is a quite good time to look at what you're doing, because my streaming has kind of gone, like my sort of ecosystem around has gone backwards a bit, because I'm like, haven't put a lot of time and effort into it. But there's really good tips there around how to cancel out fan noise. Now, if you don't even stream, most of you will be on Discord. And if you're like me, the first thing I do when we get on and there's a new rider is turn on your fan and let's hear what you sound like. Because if I can't hear your voice and my whole race is just the sound of your crazy fan in my ear, I will lose.
See you later. Bye.
See ya.
We're not watching this.
So, like, honestly, there's good tips on there about how to get the fan noise like out of your mic, how close to have the mic to you without you like sweating all over it, and how to put in music. Now, this is a good one. I'd found a good music one because obviously you can't put much in there because of copyright, but there are places you can add a bit of music because it's kind of boring and kind of weird. Like, what I've found is it's weird to tune into a stream where it's just like heavy breathing and no talking and no music. Like, you kind of feel like, what am I watching?
Somehow what's interesting is Ed Laverick gets away with it in a way that, like, okay, so like what's interesting to me is that I'll tune in to Ed Laverick streams, and the dude does everything that you're not supposed to do in some ways and has like a total following and people are so into it. But it's because he built a community through his VODs, through his YouTube VODs, that is all about what he's doing. And there's enough people chatting that you're like, yeah, this is cool. And you start jumping on the train and like being a part of it. And he literally is a guy with his shirt off riding a trainer with like just some room with like the lighting isn't good, like the microphone's picking up the in the background the whole time, the trainer's like, and you're like, dude really is getting away with this. But he does he also does a good commentary job about, he's a very good presenter around what he's doing, why he's doing it. His attitude's very humble a lot of times too. Like, he does it, it's this perfect storm of like, somehow this is working. Like, some people get away with it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but not everybody can get away with that. Most people don't.
Yeah.
That's like the example of like, because I think some people see him do it and go,
yeah,
oh, okay, just whatever. It doesn't matter. And it's like, well, actually, you might like have the 1 that goes to 2 and then back to 0, and the 1 goes to 2 and back to 0. When it comes to the viewership number, might not stick around for too long.
They tune in and they're like, oh, this is bad. But there was a little hack in there that not even a hack, just a feature that I didn't know, but in OBS you can do something called ducking. And it means that if you've got music playing, if you come in and talk, it will quiet the music and raise
Noise
your
variability.
voice automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does its own variability for you. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think I'll do that. I mean, one thing that I find hard is that I think the most engaging streams are where you can hear everybody in the Discord, right? Because otherwise, when you're racing and you're only talking, it's very uncontextual because you're just kind of being like, oh, right, okay, and like the best ones are where you pull in everybody because then, but the problem is like, I'm not comfortable like having my whole team on my stream if they're not comfortable either, right?
Totally.
Like,
You have to be on a team that is so up front. When I first started racing with OMG, I was like, every time I told them, hey, we're live, are you okay? With like, hey, and they were all, yeah, it's good. And they even like would change how they interact a little bit, I think, like here and there. And then Caleb started streaming. Caleb Carl, he's over on Twitch, and his stream's growing. Actually, he's doing a good job. He's consistently live, and he's just a Zwift racer at this point. After a couple crashes outside, he's only racing Zwift, and he's really, really competitive and does really well. And they just assume now that we're always live. Like it's kind of like, and so, anyways, that's kind of a thing for sure. Though you have to find a team that's like totally okay with being live because it makes it super interesting. Some of the top Twitch streams are actually all about duos or trios or teams that are interacting, and all of them are live, and people can like do the hype of following multiple streamers who are all on the same team then and like watch their perspectives. That's actually a big thing on Twitch.
Yeah. So the hard thing I have is, that I really want all the team on it, but I don't want to also censor the team because we chat about a whole bunch of things while we're racing. And so people, like I do all the time, I forget that I'm streaming live when I'm in the heat of a race.
It gets super personal. And it gets like all like you have a therapeutic session. It's the women's therapeutic session team, and like next thing you know, like everyone's crying and opening up about their life struggles, and oh my god.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, well, that's the thing. You get emotional racing and then you finish and you're like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my, I would just not even want to like mistakenly be like, I've captured all of that. Sorry, team. And it's like a safe space for us all to chat, right? So anyway, so we won't have that. So that kind of unfortunately takes away a little bit from what I think would be really entertaining.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you've seen the latest, most entertaining, biggest YouTube things that are going on are these live streams and videos of those kinds of conversations. If you guys really wanted, you can just agree with the whole team. Everybody sign here. We'll monetize this. Okay. And just open up about it all. Like you guys have to have like fake names.
Oh my gosh. So I just don't. Oh my God, I couldn't even imagine. But the parts that I have enjoyed is when I've DS'd, because as a DS, you're the one who's dictating what's happening. So I think that can be entertaining. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I'll get my sort of stream back up to a high quality level, I think, and follow some of the tips that Eric's been putting on Zwift Insider.
Okay, real quickly before we move on to the picks for the week for the jersey and the garage pick, we did find this. This is an interesting. I don't know what to think of this. I just think like Fortnite on a bike. So I did a little recording of it. This is Vingo, and as you can see, like I don't think this is a Zwift competitor. I think this is something like different than that. But this is Vingo, and like. It's kind of interesting. Like you can connect it to a trainer, but you see, I just pushed go and like the guy just started moving. I can like move the camera around, everything. It even has a little blimp in the air. So they did kind of copy a little bit, but check this out. They have they have chat on the right-hand side. Watch, like I'll open up chat here in a second and there's like little private servers. So they definitely built it around something that's more MMO. I think there's like an MMO preset maybe for their,
is your person dabbing?
Yes. What's so look. They have like cheer. It's like Fortnite. You can do Fortnite dance type things, like or whatever. Like watch. I do a cheer like this, and then I do like a We need that. I like Zwift. We need that in game. We kind of need that, right? Like,
Look at your biceps there as well.
well, of course.
Whoa, your
I mean,
avatar.
this guy. He's not even He's the like medium-sized one. You can do like a skinnier dude, and then you can do like a super buff one too in the game. So
God. It's like a reverse cyclist. You have like the tiniest legs and the like hugest upper body.
I really feel like the graphics there looked though like Fortnite not done up as well. Like I feel like they took whatever that like engine was or something and then just like placed cycling into it. That's what it looked like to me. And the world's even like the way the world is formed and stuff too. Like I don't know like gaming engineering well enough to like actually make a claim at that, but I just that's my feel when I looked at it. I was like, and even the fact that the way the avatar was moving when they did those little things, those little emotes, I was like, that really reminds me of the same kind of skinning there. But anyways, interesting. That's Vingo.
Look, what do you
think about that? Like you said something about that.
Yeah, I kind of thought because you can, it's not a competitive as Zwift in this space, but
you can have pets. You can have pets that like you can put a pet behind your bike and it hangs out, like levels up with you and stuff. Like what?
Yeah, so okay, I've got like two things. I think one is that, obviously I've been traveling and on treadmills and things. This would be kind of interesting for that because what you can do is just manually increase your speed to match like the treadmill because they have running as well, which makes sense. You don't need to take any sensors. You don't need to do anything. You can just link it to your gym equipment. Obviously, this is why it's not a competitive for Zwift because that would be ridiculous for racing, right? You just be like, make me go really, really fast.
Racing or training seriously in any way whatsoever. Yeah. Like it's totally like not that.
But I see that for like traveling or something, or like just linking up to a gym, like gyms using it, right? Like having it as a fun game thing to help people keep fit. Then I also see it with all the dabbing and the like cheering and being able to have pets and in the kid space. Like my son's 6 and in his class at the moment, they've got like a point system. Like if you, I don't know, clean up or do stuff, you get points. And it's through this like little app and they got to create their own like monster avatar and then the monster avatars go on the screen at school. And I'm like, well, if they wanted to like run a program to like motivate kids to get fit, I would see that as being motivating.
My kid would totally be super motivated. Like my kids, once the Zwift Plays got here, they're like, I want to try that, Dad. And they saw they saw the gamification side of it where we were doing stuff that was a little bit more like with Repack Rush and like they were all excited about that. But I have a feeling they would see this and be way more like, that looks like the things I play. That looks like Roblox. That looks like, you know what I mean? And then they would do something that's exercise oriented.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think like Zwift doesn't go enough down gamification to appeal to kids. I think, and I don't think it should necessarily.
Yeah,
but something like this thing
at this point, I think there needs to be more scaling outside of, and then that space way down the road. You know, because I look at like my son. He saw my plays as well. He's like, when can you put my bike on the trainer? I want to have a turn. I was like, oh yeah, I can totally do that. But I think immediately he'd get bored because one, he'd cycle really slowly because he's little, he's 6, he'll probably go at like, I don't know, 13k an hour. So it won't be fast enough to see all the cool things he wants to see, like the volcano. Like if he's like, I want to go to the volcano, I'll be like, oh, that's going to take you about half an hour to get there, buddy. And he'll lose interest and then he'll steer for a bit and then it'll be like, yippity dude, what
do I do?
It's not the fun gaming that they do, and they see the initially, oh yay, gaming, and then like it's not that. It's racing and exercise, you know, and like riding your bike like the bored adults do out on the bikes in their group rides. I don't want to go do that.
Exactly. So a more gamey one for kids, I think, that could work in that age group.
Totally. So, well, that's Vingo. That's interesting. I think it's cool that these are all kind of popping up for different genres in ways that, you know, not necessarily even a competitor, but just something else to serve up in this area. So, Amy Mundasev Classroom Dojo Kids School app.
That's the app. That's the app my son has. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
So obviously it's like an international thing. So cool. Good to know.
All right, so our fashion picks for the week. Well, of course, we're going to be doing the Tour de France avec Zwift, Femmes avec Zwift here because that Canyon SRAM bike, I saw that presented.
Oh,
Cassia Neodoma I think, did a little Instagram post about some of that thing is insane. And it goes
it's
right
hot.
alongside
Right? Oh my gosh.
the Canyon SRAM jersey in game too.
So I don't know, like I'm not on social media a lot, so I totally missed this until I watched the first stage and I was like, what kit is that? Oh my God, what kit is that? That is unreal. And then I was like, it's the Canyon SRAM kit. Wow. Like, so for those listening, it says LA, LA, LA on the back. It's like those Watch the Femmes kind of colors, like the orange,
They had
shady
the big
pink
Z on
with
the
the bright
shoulder,
yellow,
right?
big Zwift. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bike just goes with it and it looks so sweet. I did the ride yesterday to unlock the jersey. It's not in my garage yet. I think Zwift had a little bug and they've got to do an update so that it appears in your garage. So that will hopefully be there soon. But oh my gosh, you don't get the bike paint job. I was so crushed. It doesn't unlock the paint job to go with the kit. So I was a little bit disappointed by that.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was a little bit sad.
Yeah.
So hopefully
you've been after those paint jobs for a while too. Like that's like a big one on your that's on your Zwift dev bucket list.
Yeah, like that will be like I'll say now, like I'm not a singer. I will like sing on this podcast when
that happens. If we get like that customization for paint, you heard it here first, Zwift devs. If you want to hear Anna sing, you even get the song request. Which song?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? What song would it be?
I'll do it.
All right, we get customization for Zwift bike paint jobs. You need to make this a really specific ask. If you're gonna sing on the podcast, you better say exactly what the parameters are for what this feature is, right?
Oh, okay. Well, that would be what. Okay, there'll be two. It'll be that and garage sale. Yeah, I'll do it.
Garage sale.
I'll do it. I'll sing.
Anna is singing a full song in its entirety.
Oh my gosh, I want to put people through that. Honestly, I'm a terrible singer. Our podcast numbers would
maybe not even on the podcast. I don't know, like that'd be the most uncomfortable live podcast maybe in some ways. Like it would have to be like just a social media post that's like recorded and then like put out on all of our YouTube stuff. Like she said she'd do it. Here it is. And like you just like show up and there's Anna and all right. And then like boom, it's over and the camera goes off. It's like
I'll never do that again. Oh, Eye of the Tiger. Okay, Aaron's throwing in Eye of the Tiger. Oh man, I'd have to get the lyrics up. This would be like karaoke. But yeah, I'll do the chorus. I mean, if you want to see me sing a whole song, but I mean, geez, you'll never unhear that again.
So what's the ratings on these? Everybody let us know what you think about them as well in chat, social media, wherever you might. But new Canyon SRAM jersey as well as the Canyon SRAM. Also, you can win this bike, I believe. I think there's something going on with social media right now. Yeah, so if you want to win the bike, go look at Canyon SRAM social media. They're doing something where if you share the post, tag it, follow, you can win that bike. So go do that because who doesn't want that bike? That's pretty awesome.
Wow, it's so nice, right? Like, yeah, oh my gosh, I just want it. It's so good. And I think as well, like what this Tour de France Femme is doing for me is creating this huge brand loyalty for me. Like if I was going to buy a road bike, I would find it hard not to buy a Canyon SRAM
road
bike. Yeah. I know nothing about the specs. I'm just like, I want to support you because you support women's racing.
What about all the other ones? What about all the other? There's all those other bikes are out there too for the other teams. They're all supporting women's racing.
Yeah, but you look, Alperson's on Canyon.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like, and Alperson's doing heaps of women's racing. Isn't Movistar also on Canyon?
Wait.
All right, I'm gonna have a look.
Hold on a second. So,
yep, Movistar's on Canyon.
SD Works is on Specialized, of course.
Well, right? Yeah, of course. But yeah, there's something about Canyon that just I don't know, makes me think that they're really putting a lot of work into.
I'm trying to think. What's Jumbo Visma is on
Cervelo.
Cervelo, yeah. And then
they're on Cervelo, and then there's Trek,
then
obviously,
Trek,
which
little,
has a
little Trek, yeah.
which has a sweet paint job, which is good.
Liv,
I
you
will.
got the Liv, you got the Giant out there as
Liv is
well.
good. I mean, Liv's great. I think, but there's something about Canyon, and it also shows me like brands that I will not buy. Like, I will not buy a Pinarello.
Whoa, big,
Yeah,
whoa, what?
yeah. Like, so they're the Team Ineos. Team Ineos is the most well-funded team in the world, and yet,
Are you sure? Now, before you make a claim here, are you sure they're
I could
not?
be wrong.
Okay, like I don't know. Like I
So
haven't looked into
they
it.
don't have a women's team. They've supported one rider
Women,
who
yeah,
does mountain biking.
mountain
They do
bike,
not
yeah.
have a team. Like at the time where all the men's teams like Jumbo and De Koenig were doing like that, we should have a women's team. And he also was like, nah. So I'm like, well, okay. Well, whatever
Hmm.
brands you use is not brands I want to have.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, well,
There
if
we
anybody
go.
knows of a women's team supported by Pinarello, let us know. Otherwise, Anna might be forcing the topic here.
Well, I'm sure they care
Next
about
thing you
my
know,
like
yeah. Well, next thing you
my
know,
market.
bam. Well, here we go. Who knows what happens? The world. So, what does it go? The world has never been changed by anybody but a small group of very passionate people. Like,
Oh, I like that. Good quote.
yeah, it's never. That's just the way that It's the way, like big change, whatever. That's once there's big, huge governments in place and lots of money, whatever. Those changes happen, but the changes that are like, how the heck did that happen? There's a small group of really passionate people that make really big, sudden, ideas have consequences. Anyways, yeah.
I
Okay,
like it. Okay.
I don't know if you really wanted to pick that one apart, but it's a cool quote. Makes you feel good about it.
Yeah. That's what quotes are for. Don't look at them too closely.
All right, what are you up to for next week?
Well, like getting back on the bike. I feel like I've been in like travel crazy mode for like 2 weeks. So yeah, back on the bike. I've actually got Claire Cameron, who's on Team Riot. She's coaching me. So she's
Oh,
working on my
nice.
program. Yeah. So I can get into some hard training before the surgery and then go back to some zone 2 stuff for a while. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to. And watching the Tour de France, Femmes, obviously over the weekend. So be really excited about that. I will just note, I don't know if this is the best time. We will have a guest next week, Kate Bates, you would have known her from Zwift Community Live broadcast. But we're not going to have guests like every week. We did that for like a year, and then I think I put out to ask for some feedback, and people came back and said we're actually fine sometimes with you and Nathan just going deep on topics, because I felt sometimes we'd go deep and then we'd be like, oh, we need to stop because like someone's coming on. So we'll bring guests on where it makes sense with topics we want to talk about.
Yeah, and like where we can really dive specific topics too, and then or highlight something really amazing in the community and not force it every single week.
Yeah.
Where we can really prepare for a guest. Because sometimes I think our guests were underserved because we were bringing one in every single week and we weren't able to dive as deep as we could have with them, because maybe all of us were a little bit unprepared for it too. So I think that's really it's a good way to move forward, and I think everybody will enjoy that. And the feedback from those who asked, we put it out there, the feelers, and it seems like people are enjoying that as well. So for me, this next week and weeks, I'm really focused on the second half of season. I've been putting in big miles. Both Gabby and I have been just doing lots and lots of hours to relay some base fitness. I did a lot of racing in June and early July. And then when you do lots and lots of racing and not lots and lots of long riding, you tend to lose some of that base layer. So we're putting that back down. This was probably the last week of that. Looking forward to the rest of the season. I'll probably stick a couple of like maintenance weeks in there later in the season, but lots and lots of riding is what's been going on. Now it's time to ramp it up for August racing and early September racing with a lot of intervals. And I'm really hoping to break a lot of KOMs actually. But the summer's coming to like a lot of old KOMs. We'll see how it goes, because it tells me that old man can still race his bike. But like it's kind of like, we're getting into the middle of summer here, the what they call the dog days of summer here sometimes, where it's like really hot, really humid. But in this area of the world, as it gets to there, that summer's going to be coming to an end. Like the nights are starting to get shorter again. you're like, okay, use this as much as you can. I'm getting outside as
Mhm.
much as I can. You know what I mean? It's like, because Zwift season's coming, and I'm actually really excited for Zwift racing season because I haven't been racing Zwift for so long. As well, I've raced a little bit, but not like every couple of days as much anymore. So I'm kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
I miss it a little bit. So I'm kind of also making sure that I miss it a lot because I know that it's coming where it's like that's all I'm going to be doing for a while. And I'm actually starting to make some cool plans in my head about, like you said, streaming and like what's the streaming community going to be like, and what are the broadcasts going to be like here in ZCL, as well as what the community build up that could be amongst the streaming community of Zwift too. And so lots of planning going on in my head around that and putting down some hard plans on paper and moving forward with that. So that's kind of what I'm up to right now when it comes to Zwift related, cycling related for the next couple of weeks. So big
Love it.
races coming. Ore to Shore, trying to win the state series here. I'm currently still the series leader, so we'll see if I can be the state champion on that side this year. I got to hold on.
Do you get a ring? Is it like
you get
football,
like a
or are you going to
plaque.
get a...
They used to actually have a pretty good payout, but I don't know if that's happening anymore. It used to be like cash was on
So
the
you don't
line.
get a... I thought you always in America, if you're a state champion, you got like a huge ass ring.
That's like a football thing. I don't know. We used to get like
Oh.
we get like a plaque. Like I have a plaque hanging up from being the state champion of 2016, but I don't.
Will
Yeah.
you do a Nico Schurter and get like it engraved onto one of your chain rings? Nico Schurter.
I'll get it. I don't know. We get it engraved in a plaque. I don't know if I'll do anything on that side of things. I think I'll just sell my bikes and get next year's model. So
Tattooed across your chest, like state champion or something. Ugh.
we actually have like we talk about what do we do with all this stuff, like these awards. Like we only get to keep the really significant, cool looking ones in the house because it's like
Yeah.
like what are you gonna do with all? Like you're gonna make a whole room to this? That's a lot of space to take up. So, which I kind of feel
that's
like
like...
later in life, do you regret because grandkids can look at it and be like, "Whoa, look at all that!" Like they competed, and like have this room of fame or
Yeah.
something. But
I keep them in like a cupboard, but the only one I have out on like display is my Kona podium. Like you got a Omeke bowl, which was like this wooden traditional bowl,
oh,
and then it
cool.
had like the engraving like plaque on the bowl. So that would be my that is my one like pride of place.
That's a really cool. That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
It's very cool.
the state champ plaque, the cow, the state championship cows. We have 2 cows, and we put there. I got home and like, and Gabby was just like laughing because she took the cows inside, and then like she started putting them in like, kind of like, why are they doing that to each other? And then she had them kissing and like,
Oh my gosh.
and then finally there was only 1 cow, not 2 cows, up on the mantle next to the Tour of America's Dairyland and my
Oh my gosh.
degree awards. Like that's it. That's all
Yeah,
that's up
yeah.
on the. All right. Well,
Oh,
thanks
that's cool.
everybody for tuning in. This has been the Wrap, episode number 54. We'll be back for episode number 55 next week with Kate Bates. It's going to be great to talk to Kate Bates. Now, if you didn't know, we have been live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment in all the places. It helps a ton with the podcast reach. You can also download this podcast anywhere that you can find your podcast. You just search Zwift and the Wrap. You should come up real quickly, or just head on over to zwiftcommunitylive.com and you can find all the episodes there, as well as our live broadcast schedule and what may be coming up for any of the racing coverage. Well, that's it from Anna and I. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week for episode number 55. And as always, ride on.
We don't know the chance.